G'day, mates. It's the date today's the 24th of November 2023. It's interesting that I remember that because I'm not great at remembering stuff. But anyway, my friend Grant Edwards, he asked me to come and talk to you guys. And I said to him, did I tell you my name? My name's Dennis Hall. And this is Liberty NZ. I'm sorry. So Grant asked me to come and have a word with you about things. And I said, how much of a word? And he said, as much word as possible, because, you could fill in a whole morning. See, look, I run out of stuff to say already. I've only been going for, I can tell how long I've been going because my little screen here is going 58, 59, 60. There's the first minute done. Well, that's not bad, I suppose, considering he wants me to do 3 hours. But anyway, so Liberty NZ, that's Grant's radio station. Now, Grant insists that I can do this, and so we'll see. We'll see. I have to think of things I'm going to talk about, and there's all kinds of things I can actually talk about, but I don't know whether you'd be interested in all that. But I'll tell you about some of them this morning, because this is the first day. This is the first day of the rest of my life, maybe. Unless I say fuck, because, he said if I say fuck, I'm out. Bugger. Said it already. But I won't say it anymore. I told you, Grant, hey. Anyway, so, talking about stuff. My wife, I thought she was going to make me a coffee today, but she was being very efficient. She's made me, I think it's Milo, but it's okay. It's a hot drink. And so I've been lying in bed awake all night, thinking to myself about what the hell I'm going to talk about here, because I didn't want to let Grant down and Liberty NZ down. Got to talk about something. But, I think he maybe thinks I'm capable of talking about nothing, but just talking. But who knows? We'll see. And so I made a list inside my head about the different things that I did, or do, or don't do, or used to do, or would like to do. And there's a whole lot of them. And so some that I did do, I can talk about that, I suppose. But he said, talk about politics. Well, politics. What can I say about politics? I mean, politics. Look at these nutbars we've got as politicians now. But we voted for them. I always think they're mad as maggots, but maybe it's us. Maybe it's us. Now, I've got this Milo. I've got to be very careful drinking the Milo so I don't spill it on the keyboard, because if I do, everything will die. And I don't want everything to die because I've already done 3.5 minutes talking about absolutely nothing. I think I could possibly sit down and talk about nothing for an hour. That there could be a worldwide competition for that, to see how much you could talk about nothing for how long. There'll be people who could go on forever. So Liberty NZ and Grant Edwards. Now, he's a very dedicated character, that old Grant. I've never met him. He's one of those. He's one of those Facebook people. Met him on Facebook. I remember back in the day when you knew all your friends face to face. You'd met all your friends face to face. But here we're in a new age, where you meet people on Facebook, and you never get to meet them in real life. And so I suppose in a way that's kind of real life, but it's not real life, if you know what I mean. You don't get to shake their hand, and they never get to buy you a coffee or stuff like that, So, it's kind of different, but I can cope with that. And so what would I be doing if I wasn't talking on the radio? I'd be here. I'm in a garage here. And we've moved to Auckland recently. I had a different kind of life before Auckland. Excuse me. Because I'm old, my nose runs. So I've got a big pile of tissues over here. Must look disgusting. And so here I am in a garage, and I used to be an artist once, and I have to tell you what I am now. Mainly, I'm a writer. Oh, it's kind of nice to say, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. But who do you write for? Me. So take this seriously, Dennis. Grant will be upset otherwise. And no dead air, he said. No dead air. Make sure you're saying something all the time. And I'm trying to do that. So here I am sitting in this garage in this rented house in North Shore. And all my stuff's here. I was into photography for a while. Had a whole range of photography. Still got it. Really like the idea of making videos. Spent about $10,000 on a very flash video camera. And it's just sitting there now doing nothing. And it's a digital video camera. You don't have to stick tapes in it or anything. Just talk to it and then download it onto the computer, and there it all is. And who knows whether it goes or not now. But it looks very flash. And it's sitting on a couch it's a big couch, but it's actually a fold-out couch. It's the only fold-out couch in the world that you can sleep on and it doesn't hurt. And so I bought it from my friend Peter King. I didn't actually. I bought it from his son after Peter died. Because when I used to go and stay at Peter King's place, over in the Wairarapa, I used to get to sleep on this thing. And there were several places I could go and sleep. I used to go to Wairarapa to go ballooning. And so, where was I up to? Oh yeah, this bed. You stay in some people's houses, and they say, oh, you can sleep in a fold-down bed. So they come out and struggle out, and they fold down the bed, and they go through all sorts of machinations to make it look like a bed. And then you get in it, it's got a bar across the middle, and it's like sleeping in a torture chamber. But this one here that I'm looking at now, but you can't see. Oh, you can. The blue there, see, because this is actually a video. Oh, you might only get the voiceover, but so you can see the cushions on it. It's a nice, comfortable, sleepable couch, and there's a freezer in here, and there's all kinds of junk that I've accumulated over years. And I look at some of it and I wonder why I haven't thrown it away. And it's because I cling on to things. There's stuff here that sort of has a memory component. I've got paintbrushes from when I was, I'm a reasonable painter, Well, I'm an artist. It's one of the other things. I'm going to talk about me. I hope that's okay today. Because if I'm going to be talking on Grant's radio show, Liberty NZ, this is Liberty NZ, and I'm Dennis Hall. And I'm talking to you now from a garage in the North Shore. And I'll tell you the date, but it's a waste of time telling you the time because I don't know what time you'll play it. So it's the 24th of November, 2023. Yeah. Do you know, there was a time when I was absolutely clear what year it was at any given time, but I'm not so sure now. It's kind of, you tend to live inside yourself a bit when you get old. You watch a bit of international stuff, because, I can talk about, excuse me, so there's another one of the factors of getting old you have to own up to, and that is that, your body produces all kinds of muck, most of which ends up in your throat. So that makes talking difficult, And so I don't know what people on real radio do. This is real radio, of course, if it's getting broadcast, it's real. But I don't know what people do when they have a problem with phlegm in their throat on the radio. They switch the radio off and have a cough, maybe. Well, we can. If I make a noise, Grant can switch the switch off. And so there's a whole lot of my art stuff here because I used to be a sculptor. I'm a pretty good sculptor. Usually there's a sculpture of mine in my little place, but there's not. Nothing. Not even one of the little ones. Can't believe it. And I'm looking around. You can't tell I'm looking around because this is just a voice. But yeah, I'm looking around. And it won't sound as though I'm looking in the other direction because I've got a headphones on and a microphone. Grant said, just no dead keep talking. So I'm keeping on. Yeah, so yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But when I was an artist, I was a sculptor. And some of what I might tell you about me, because I think on the first day I need to tell you a little bit about me. But I used to live in a mansion. There it is. There, look at that. And I was there for 23 years, but I lost it in a big legal battle. But while I was there, people used to come and stay. It was 36 rooms, out in the wop-wops. And lots of lawns, and I used to mow the lawns all the time and stuff. And we had a big veranda where everybody used to just lounge around doing nothing while I sort of looked after them. And excuse me, just block your ears. Because like all old guys, the only productive part of me is my nose. And you see, the other thing that happens when I do this, and I have to stop and clean my nose, is that I forget what the hell I was talking about. Sometimes I forget my coffee instead or something. And it's not coffee. It's actually, it's Milo. Milo's okay, I suppose, but I particularly like a good coffee. And I make coffee myself with my own sort of recipe. It's not ground, it sort of all comes in packets. And so yeah, I was at the homestead and they never had, you do some stupid things in your life. I feel as though I might talk about this a bit today. This place, the name of this house was Aruafaru or Aruafaro or something, but everybody called it Orawara. Orawara. I don't like giving Maori names to things. Not my language. It already had the name. But if it was my house, I would have called it, I don't know, White House, the White House or something. But is that a snobby thing to do, to give everything a Maori name? I don't know. But anyway, this gigantic house had 36 rooms, and I figured there was, we used to have a lot of people come and stay. There was bedrooms in a lot of the rooms. There were beds in a lot of the rooms. And and I could cook a bit. I actually learned to be a bit of a cook on a barge in Australia, and geez, it was a long time ago, in the 60s. I was looking for a job, and this Pommy guy that I was sort of, how the hell did I meet him? I ended up there in Brisbane. And I said, how the hell am I going to get a job? And he said, just go down to where there's a whole lot of places where people work and walk down the road and ask for a job. So I did. And I happened to be walking down the side of the Brisbane River. And it was the sort of commercial part of the Brisbane River where a lot of barges and things were. And when I went into this place, it was called Moreton Tug and Lighter. Lighter, Lightr, I think that's the way to spell it. A lighter is something that you use for a boat that you use for carrying stuff from a ship to shore. So I said, can I have a job? And the guy said, yeah, can you cook? And I said, well, a little bit. He said, good, that'll do. You're the cook on a boat called the Yukai. How the hell did I remember that after all this time? And so anyway, and the guy, so he said, there's the Yukai there, and there was this whole thing looked like a tramp steamer. It was just it was like a 100-foot long boat made out of steel, and it looked like something out of the 1910s, pre-World War One, and it's got a crane on it, and because this is going to sound stupid, but I could drive a crane. I used to drive a big crane in Wellington. I'm going to change this subject just again for a minute. I I was, I was driving a cab back in Wellington back in the days, in the 60s. I'm getting a bit bored with it. And I was out working in the daytime because usually I worked at night. And I was out working in the daytime and I'm driving along a street in Karori, one of the ones that goes up the hill where the Teachers Training College is now. I can't remember the name of that street. It'll come to me. And there was a building site there and they were building the Teachers Training College. And parked in the driveway, there was a crane. And there was a sign on the boom. The boom sort of stuck out over the footpath. There was a sign on the boom that says, crane driver wanted. And I thought, shit, I could drive a crane. So I went into this site office, which was really just a big old box with a door and a desk. And I said, are you the boss? And this guy's name, I remember his name, Martin Phillipson was his name. I said, you want a crane driver? And he said, yeah, can you drive a crane? I said, no. And he said, well, why are you asking? And I said, because I reckon I could learn in about 5 minutes. And he said, oh, okay. So he said, come with me. So we went outside to this crane. And it was one of those truck-mounted cranes, and when you drove it down the road, the boom stuck out 35 feet in front of you over the road. And you'd go around, when you're going around corners with it, you've got to be real careful driving those things because you got this. If you can imagine having a car with a ladder on the roof that's sticking out in the front by 30 feet. Got it 30 feet, it's 10 metres. And so he said, all right, come on. And so we went outside and he sat me in the driver's seat because I could drive the truck part. I mean, it's just a truck. It's just like a great big ugly car. Got gearbox and clutch and brake and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the crane's sitting on the back. It's an independent machine. Not independent, it has to go everywhere the truck goes, but anyway. So he said, how did I get onto this? So he said, sit in the driver's seat, right? And I did. And he said, you see that key there? Turn that key. I turned the key. And the key was up behind me, it was up on the wall. He said, see that big button beside it? He said, yep. He said, press it. And it's off it goes. Bloody noisy sitting on that. It's real noisy sitting inside that cab with that bloody engine in there with you, roaring away. So then he has to yell at me about everything I have to do to drive the crane. And he said, there's a big lever over there. Have a look. See, you can see a big lever on over to your right. And yeah, this one here? Yeah, that's the one. Now what you do is you've got to pull that all the way back. And so I grabbed it and I pulled it all the way back. And you could hear it, you could hear the big gearboxes at the back all starting up because that's what it was. It was the thing that engages the gears with the engine. So he said, right now all the controls will work. So you've got to be careful what you do now. And he said that and alongside that, further down, there's another big lever. And that's the luffing lever. Luffing. I mean, if I didn't know what luffing was, how the hell could I drive a crane? But luffing's the thing about the boom going up and down. So he said, just pull that lever back. And I did, and this engine took up the strain and started to lift the boom out of the cradle. And so he said, just keep on going. So I'm holding this lever in because you've got to hold it in. It won't stay in by itself. And the boom climbs up until it's sticking straight up, not straight up in there, but close. He said, that'll do. Don't get too steep. Too steep. You know what he means by that. And so I said, okay, so I stopped it. He said, now that lever there in front of you between your legs, now that's the boom, that's the up and down. That lifts the hook up and down. It's a hook winch, because there's all these different winches in there doing all this stuff. So I think I had to lock the boom in place somehow. I'm not sure, I can't remember. And then he said, and so now he had unhooked the hook off the front mud bumper of the truck. So I had this, and so then I up and down, and you just pull it this way, it goes up, and he said, and it's got a power down. So one of those foot pedals is a power down, because you can't just let stuff come down with the weight on it. You've got to power it down, and that controls it, So you just put your foot on that, and that was easy. So I did it, and it powered it down again. And he said, "Oh, good. You okay with that?" And I said, "Yep." And he said, "When can you start?" And I said, "Oh, now, if you like." So I had a job as a crane driver. And I did it I enjoyed it. I did it for a long time. And, I would have thought you'd have to go and get a qualification for all that. But back then you didn't. You just had to be some lunatic that thought he could drive a crane. It was a big crane, It was a big crane. It would lift 5 ton off the ground easy. Lift a car up. You could lift a car up 100 feet. Not that you want to do that. Too hard to park. And so there I was in Australia, because that's what I was talking about, wasn't I? It's Australia. And I kind of decided that I needed to have a job. And I'm walking down this road alongside the river, Brisbane River, and there's a thing there that, and I went into this place where it was a lightering company called Morton Tug and Lighter. I went in and said, "I'm a Kiwi, can you give us a job?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, what can you do?" And I said, "I can drive a crane." Because there was cranes on the boats. He said, "Oh, okay, when can you start?" "Now." "Okay." So introduced me to everybody, and I was already working. And so my job was to be the spare crane driver. And do you know what? I never got to drive a crane when I was with him all the time, I think. So he said, "Your other job, can you cook?" I said, yeah, I can cook." He said, what can you cook?" And I said, "Steak and eggs." He said, "Perfect. You can be Arnie Johnson's cook." And so I went into and so we're on this boat called, there's 2 boats. One's called the Yukai, and the other one was called the Heather. Well, the Yukai looked like a tramp steamer, and the Heather just looked like a barge. So he said, "This is the one that Arnie Johnson uses most of the time, so you're going to be with him. So, you need to be able to cook him a meal, and he's floating around somewhere, so get in the fridge, cook him up a meal of steak and eggs, and we'll give him a yell." And I thought, this is a test. You're testing me to see if I can cook a reasonable steak for Arnie Johnson, whoever he is. And so while I'm cooking the steak, up on the wall above the stove, there was a version of the Lord's Prayer. And I told you this guy's Arnie Johnson, right? ARNIE. It's short for Arnold, I think. And he's not the sort of guy that would like to be called Arnold. "Hello, Arnold." It's a funny name. And so, sorry, all the Arnolds in the world. Arnold seems okay, really, but, Arnie Johnson. And so he said, so I cooked lunch for Arnie Johnson. And I just cooked him steak and eggs, rough as guts. I made cut off a big slab of bread that was about 3 slabs thick. It was nice fresh bread. And I heated it up in the oven and covered it in butter. Whacked this and put that alongside the steak and a couple of eggs. And he thought he was in heaven, Arnie Johnson. And so he used to talk about his wife all the time. I can't remember what he said, but he never stopped talking about his wife. It probably was the only one he'd ever had. So anyway, I worked as a cook on the Brisbane River for about half a year. And I sort of was a deckhand as well, so I had to help them tie the bloody thing up from time to time. And sometimes when he made a bit of a mess with because what we used to do is go up the river and push by a tug mostly, and the tug was just a real shitbox of a thing, but it was powerful enough to shove this bloody barge up the river, and against the current. And they'd go to places that they seemed to know and just looked like river to me. Oh, he said, this is where we get Wonderlick sand from, and I've never heard of Wonderlick sand. And so they'd hold it in position against the current with this tug. And Arnie would get up there with this bucket dredge. It's just a crane with a bucket on it. And he'd swing it around like a lunatic, throw it in one direction, take the brakes off the, kick the brakes off the winches, and this the weight of this bucket would go, pulling the stuff off the winch as fast as it could, crash into the water and sink to the bottom, and you'd see it stop because the lines would go slack. And then you see one of the lines, you pull one of the lines in and it closes it up. And then there's 2 winches on it. And up you come with this stuff, and he dumps some of it in the hold, and yeah, that'll do. So we stay there for a whole long time and dig all the stuff out of the bottom of the river. And then that would take hours, 3-4 hours. Sometimes we'd go out into Moreton Bay and we'd dig some kind of sand that they knew was there somewhere. And you bring it back, and they'd have to unload it all the same way as they loaded it. Digging it back out of the hold. And they used to load it. They used to load that dredge so that it was so loaded that the water was over the decks. And so if you looked at it from the side or whatever, you'd be able to see the hold, because the hold sticks up out of the deck, the hold, and it's sort of, and the reason for that is so that, when you're in a storm and water comes swishing over the deck, it won't go down in the hold because it's got a dam around it. But if it's a big enough wave, it could go over those sort of barriers. But anyway, so there's a barrier around the top of the hold anyway, and he'd fill it right up to the top and over the top, and so then the water back down at the aft end, where I used to do the cooking, was a little sort of still. I'd get in there and I'd be doing a bit of cooking or having a lie down or whatever. And Arnie needed me. He was doing the craning. And if he needed me, he'd just drop the bucket on the roof of this bloody thing. And the crash would be astonishing. But it would sure as hell wake you up. And so where'd I get up to? And so then you drive the thing, and then just sit around, drive the thing back all the way down the river, with water flowing all over the deck and all through the deck house, and and it just held at bay by this wall that was around the hold. So the boat was largely underwater, and so I had a plan to survive, and it didn't include Arnie. Because, he was a mad bastard, and I thought that, and I asked him if he could swim, and he said he couldn't swim. And I thought, holy shit, he's a tough bastard. I wouldn't want to be in the water trying to save him. He'd drown you. And so, never came to that. So we go back down to the Moreton Tug and Lighters place where I, started. And it's a gravel yard, And they just and all this stuff comes from barges, it all comes off the bottom of the bloody river or Moreton Bay. And I haven't even thought about this for years. And so they just then old Arnie would set about digging all this stuff back out of the hold with this bucket. This is a bucket that sort of closes like a jaw, and it'll clean up the bottom of the hold as well. And he'd dig all the sand out and throw it, and literally throw it up onto the. He'd swing it round, he'd swing that machine round as hard as he could, and the bucket would swing outwards, and he would let one brake go at the right moment, and the bucket would open and all the sand would fly out. And yeah, I know it sounds like bullshit, but it's not. So I did that for a while. I chased a woman over there, an Aussie girl I'd been having a fling with, a long fling, and her parents hated me. They hated Kiwis. And in the end I got sick of it and went to Sydney. Brisbane was all right. Sydney was different. What did I do in Sydney? I know, see, Grant, I got to make up, buddy. I'm not making anything up because I'm not sure that I can make stuff up, but I can dig stuff out of my memory. But geez, that's a long way back. That's it would have been the 1960s. So that's 60 years ago. 60-something years ago. Yeah. I was a tough young bastard then. Sorry I said bastard. I didn't mean to. But bastard's not a bad word, is it really? It's got to have a different connotation to some of those other words. And so it's 30 minutes and 38 seconds. And I'm going to stop. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to start again. But I'm going to give it a go because I'm going to try and give them an hour. At least, maybe 2. And so, and I'll probably forget, look, I'm an old bastard and my memory is absolutely knackered. And I'm likely to forget all kinds of stuff that I've already said and say it again. But live with it. I mean, people don't listen all the time. So maybe they won't know. So thanks for the opportunity, Grant. Signing off, Dennis Hall, Liberty NZ Radio. Bye-bye.